I came down to Key Calker for the first time 3 years ago. Fell in love with the island, fell in love with the people here. It's such a cool place. You can be in the center of the island and look 2 blocks one way or 2 blocks the other way, and you're looking at the ocean.
There are no cars here. Rarely do you hear an airplane. It's the most beautiful tropical environment. There is some of the most beautiful scuba diving because you've got the shallow, the deep, and the caves. It's pretty unique.
But it's just a bailout and we won't use it, so we only need to do it once, so we'll do 1460. All the breathers will be on the same. My name's Chip. I've been working diving for a decade now. My wife and I left with our 6-month-old kid and 10 boxes and the dog and moved down here, not really knowing what we were doing. I knew a little bit the giant cave was here. I knew the blue hole was here. I went for a few dives, so I knew that the walls were great, the corals were healthier than I'd seen elsewhere in the Caribbean. Belize Diving Services specifically has a great history and great tech diving pedigree. It was founded by Paul Heinrich. Paul Heinrich discovered Giant Cave while he was down here. Really a one-stop shop for everything a tech diver could want.
There's several caves now here in this area. A lot of things are different here. Like finding the caves is different. Searching with the boat, searching for holes in the sea floor, being towed behind the boat, looking down, trying to find an entrance.
There's one place where it's decent size.
Yeah.
Might be able to get in there.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's check it out.
That's way different than what I'm used to up in Mexico, where we look for landmarks. We go through the jungle and we see vegetation change, and that is a landmark or an indicator for us that we get close to a cenote. We don't have that here. We have to go by boat and looking for cracks and holes in the sea floor. Another thing which is different in these caves here, there is a lot of life, a lot of marine life in those caves.
After the first couple of owners of Belize Diving Services left, Frank Bountain was the last cave diver at Belize Diving Services. He left, and at that point, cave diving in Belize stopped. No one was qualified to do it. There had been some unfortunate accidents in Giant Cave that led to some deaths of some dive masters here, really skilled, really great divers, but the cave can be dangerous. For the past 15 years, cave diving hasn't happened. It's been shut down by the government. Here we are now. We've educated the government and the island a little bit, so now we're ready to get going.
You know, each cave is different. Each cave has a different personality. And this one here, you swim about 100 yards. Then you look down and there's this little hole.
When Paul Heinrich originally discovered the cave, he took some slide photos and then he brought them to the local elementary school and they tried to come up for a name with it, and there was a contest, and that's how it's got its name, Giant Cave, and the kids did a great job.
Inside Giant Cave, I see some of the largest formations I think I've ever seen. I've been cave diving in 5 different countries. Columns and stalactites that are 20, 25 feet tall from floor to ceiling.
When I first talked to the first explorer of Giant Cave, They were convinced that there would be just one massive room down there, but we found out very quickly that that is not the case. It's actually a complex solution cave. The cave had to be at one point completely dry because there's stalactites and stalagmites in there. So that means ocean level had to be way lower. All this probably had to be dry, and the caves underneath had to be dry too, because the dripstone formation can only form in dry land or in air in a dry cave.
It's getting harder to find places to lay line. I was looking off into all sorts of tunnels going, I know that's got to go somewhere, and there's no line there yet. So there's definitely room for exploration on this island.
Laying line is just a terminology for cave divers, and that's our terminology for exploring new cave. And so when you find new cave or new passages, you're going to lay line that's knotted every 10 feet so that you know A, how to get back, and B, how many feet you've laid line.
As a trained cave diver, we all know that we have to maintain a continuous guideline to find our way out with our given air supply.
Camaraderie, the trust, everything else involved in technical diving, whether it's deep diving, overhead environments, you really need to trust the people you're diving with. And just by trusting them and seeing how they dive, you know whether or not you're in a good situation or a potentially bad situation. When you're in a good situation, you have the ability to do more, and doing more means that Becky and I are able to concentrate more on the underwater video that we're shooting. We're able to come home with some spectacular images.
Take it by this?
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
My bottle fell off like 4 times. It was really starting to piss me off.
Yeah, it looks like a makeshift bungee there.
My name is Becky Kagan-Schott, and I'm an underwater videographer for Liquid Productions, and I get to travel all over the world shooting really, really amazing things. Underwater caves, shipwrecks, sharks, under ice, and this week here in Belize. David's my business partner and my husband, so we work together all the time, which is great because we can really read each other. He's really technical and great about fixing equipment, anything that breaks, you know, light breaks, an analyzer, something on a rebreather. He's very technical.
These guys are 50 watts, so they run 5 amps, so it should run 2 hours.
Dealing with all of this equipment takes a lot of time, and if one thing isn't taken care of, then it can ruin the whole dive for the next day. So we're pretty meticulous about getting back and making sure equipment is really in good working order.
We're all getting done with these dives, and then we're having an hour to prep our breathers before the dives and break them down after that. And then some of us are lucky to be done at that time, and poor Becky and Dave, they get done with the same work schedule that we had, and then they have to go off and maintenance and take care of all their footage, their gear.
They're pretty amazing. They're very young, but well trained, both of them. There aren't that many people who can take such high quality equipment in the underwater housing with the proper lighting, with proper experience in buoyancy control, and who have an eye for filming like Becky and Dave. They're a great team. They're going to grow and grow in this industry. I'm glad to be proud to be able to work with them in a small way.
We can do a 10-minute boat ride out from the shop and hit this deep wall that's just so cool. You can drop down somewhere in the 300-foot range, and it's just air clear water, and it's something that a lot of people haven't seen.
You can start off at 200 feet and go all the way down to 360 feet and see just an amazing cliff face that I haven't seen at that depth anywhere else in the Caribbean. It's got really healthy corals. It's just an exceptional dive, and the best part about it is you go down to depth and then you're able to swim all the way up to your 20-foot final stop. So you're never actually just hanging in the blue water. You're enjoying not only the deep part of the dive, but the decompression part of the dive too. So you get 3 hours of just incredible marine life and diving.
Reviewing the footage is really important because then everyone can see what they were doing and where they were holding their lights in relation to my camera, and they can see what they can do better. And everyone here is open to improvement. And I've been trying to coach everyone and tell them the good things that they're doing along with the bad, because they can hopefully learn from watching this footage at night and know what to do the next day, whether we're in the blue hole or whether we're in another cave. When I told you guys to stay 7 to 10 feet away, I almost needed you closer today because the conditions weren't as great to get even closer to those. It is challenging if you don't know video or photography to know exactly what I'm looking for. And we've had a bunch of not good shots, but at the same time we've had a bunch of spectacular shots. Winter Wonderland is just what it describes. It is a beautiful, snowy looking cave. First, we've got to fit through this small little restriction that I like to call the rabbit hole. Chip goes through first, and then I'm watching his fin tips, kick through this small rabbit hole, and it's silting up a little bit because it is sandy, and all of a sudden, a nurse shark pops right out at me. Oh, shit. In the 20 years I've been diving, I've never seen a shark come out of a cave. So it was this most exciting moment. And that happens. It's a saltwater cave.
Nurse sharks especially, they like to sleep in these entrances. And suddenly you have a shark in your face, right? Even if it's nurse sharks and they rather harmless, but it's a big animal in a small place.
Chapel Cave is just gorgeous. It's a real bright, real white cave, which contrasts greatly to Giant Cave, which is a very dark cave.
The way the sand coats the stalactites and stalagmites makes it look just like a winter setting.
It's a pretty decent size in there, so 3 divers can fit really easily into this cave. And the water is crystal, crystal clear.
We come together. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know each other. You show up on a boat or a or a resort like this, we share the same interest. We're diving, maybe not the same equipment, but very similar. There's values that we share. We have high regard for each other's safety. And so we all get together and we achieve a common goal. And we all want to enter the water together and exit the water together.
Leon Scamhorn is a pioneer for building closed-circuit rebreathers, and in my opinion, he makes the best rebreather that's built today.
My company since 1999 has been building rebreathers, primarily the Megalodon CCR, the Pathfinder CCR, and the U.S. Navy Mark 28 Mod O.
Closed-circuit rebreather is a very simple unit. It's been around since the 1800s in theory and in practice, but what the rebreather does is it scrubs the CO2 out of your breath and adds just the amount of oxygen that you're metabolizing.
For every 1 liter of oxygen that you metabolize, you put out almost 1 liter of carbon dioxide. You have to have a closed-circuit system, a breathing loop, to recycle this gas. You have to have a way of adding more oxygen in, and then of course the carbon dioxide, you have to have a way of absorbing that. And we use stuff that kind of looks like kitty litter.
When you're diving a rebreather, you always have the optimum amount of oxygen in your system. So that means you're able to decompress a lot quicker.
On the small tanks that you see us diving, I've actually done 9-hour dives on that rebreather continuously.
We're using the Megalodons to do the majority of the dives because of their extended range capability, reliability, and looks like we're going to the bottom of the blue hole. So I'm pretty excited about that.
We're gonna go ahead and put the wall on our right. So right now the stern of the boat is pretty much right on top of the stalactite section that we generally take most of our recreational divers to. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go out here, maybe kick a little bit towards the bow just so we're nice and comfortable and we're not drifting that way. And we kind of have a good frame of reference. Try and drop down right here next to the boat so that everybody can kind of cluster around there, and if we do any hard landings or need to put on our reconfigure our gear, draw our bubble checks, that sort of thing, at the bottom of the mooring line. Sound like a plan? Everybody got that?
Watch your PO2, don't forget, if you want to have 3 greens down there or 2 greens, whatever your set point's going to be. Another thing is not only watch your set point and your loop volume, of course buoyancy, but the other thing is watch your gases, because dives like this, it's a good technique. If you have 1/3 going down on your O2 and dill, 1/3 return, and then 1/3 reserve. And the one thing about the reserve on the one...
It's great to have Leon here with us. As the inventor and creator of the Meg, he's been diving it longer than anyone else, and he has a military background and is calm, cool, collected, and he's a guy that you want to be diving with underwater.
He always has the last word on the boat before everybody gets in. He does not really have to do that. He's not here to teach a class. He's here hired to be with the dive team, but he is watching over everybody, and I respect him.
Dave gets in the water first at the blue hole, and I jump in right after him, and immediately I see him scrambling and like calling to get someone's attention on the boat, and he passes the camera up and starts yelling, oh, it's flooding. And so Diane jumps in and opens up the latches.
Oh, fuck. God damn it.
And I just see the water pour out of the bottom of the housing, which is not what you ever want to see to your very expensive cameras.
Just go. I'll catch up with you guys. Underwater videographer's worst nightmare. What?
Save the camera. Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of water poured out of it too.
I know.
So I guess that...
Wow. All right, we'll just keep the same order and I'll work around it.
Yeah, I'll try and meet you guys down there. I need to slow down a little bit. I've been in and out twice now, so.